So, in 1557, as conflicts about the right way to practice Christianity raged violently all over Europe throughout the Reformation, Queen Isabella ruled Hungary as regent for her young son, the heir to the throne. Her rule was enforced by the armies of the Ottoman Empire, where Islam was the dominant religion, and yet Christian practice was tolerated in the occupied territories. Influenced by the Ottomans and desiring to keep the peace among Catholics and Protestants in her territory who were lashing out at each other, Isabella issued the Edict of Toleration. Quote, "Inasmuch as we and our most serene son have graciously consented to the urgent petitions of the lords of the realm, that each observe the faith of his preference with new or ancient ceremonies, permitting freedom of choice to each according to preference, providing no harm be done to any, that neither followers of the new religion are to despite the old, nor are the old in any way to injure the followers of the new." End quote. Isabella's son, John Sigismund, grew up under the religious toleration required by his mother's edict and their Ottoman backers, and he became the only Unitarian king in history. Our Unitarian history is tied up with this commitment to religious toleration, to pluralism, to entertaining multiple different beliefs. But just like the Catholics and Protestants whose violent theological dialogue Queen Isabella was trying to simmer down, toleration certainly doesn't mean agreement. How many times have you sat out there listening to the speaker up here and thinking to yourself, wow, I really disagree with what they're saying? Even folks here for the first time today may already have had the opportunity to disagree with something that's been said or the way it's been said. Perhaps that was a little too much God talk for you in our first hymn. I can think of at least one time when my personal beliefs really ran counter to what was coming out of the pulpit of my UU church. It's a risk that we run in a free faith. But it's actually also kind of the beauty of this faith, a through line that runs from Queen Isabella and King Sigismund into the 21st century Unitarian Universalism that we're here to practice today. Isabella's proclamation that religious differences be tolerated in her territory has broadened to accepting diverse beliefs and practices within our congregations, even going so far to say, as Reverend MacDonald Ladd did in our reading, that our different individual beliefs are maybe less important than how we treat each other, how we engage together in community. My beloved recently said to me, "The only way forward is multi-religious, multi-racial democracy." And he wasn't talking about congregational life, but I believe that that is true in our congregations, in our country, on every scale of human interaction. So given our acceptance of diversity of belief, as you use, and the way pluralism is woven into our history, you can pretty much expect that you're going to hear some things on Sunday mornings that you disagree with. So what should you do? Well, you could click that little red button down in the bottom right corner and leave the Zoom meeting, or you could just walk right out of the sanctuary. I have been in liberal congregations where I have seen people do just that. I don't like what that speaker's saying. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to leave. And you can do that. Of course you can. Freedom of choice. But I want to urge you to stay. In those moments when we disagree, we have a real opportunity for spiritual growth. And as Unitarian Universalists, we're actually called by our principles and values, as well as our Saltwater Church covenant of right relations, to be in that place of disagreement in beloved community, with love, acceptance, and respect. Today, I want to offer you some tools to bring with you into those moments of disagreement on Sunday morning within this congregation committed to our shared Unitarian Universalist faith. I hope these tools will empower you to stay connected instead of checking out when you disagree. The first tool I want to offer you is an idea I became aware of as a student of anthropology, of being a participant observer, someone who is outside of a particular culture or worldview, but who nonetheless dives in and participates in the rituals, the customs, the daily life, with the goal of gaining a more complete understanding of another culture. It is as though the participant observer is trying on a coat that is made up of the beliefs and practices of the people they seek to understand. For the time the anthropologist studies that culture, they wear the coat of participation, all while maintaining the eye of the observer, the self, inside the coat, thinking critically about the practices in which they participate. I want to suggest that this practice of participant observation may have a role in our spiritual lives as Unitarian Universalists. So my ideas about and practice of connection with the great mystery may be totally different from yours, right? And that's okay. That's why we're all here, taking this journey of free and responsible search for truth and meaning together, nurturing each other in spiritual growth. But what do you do when I come up to this free pulpit and I start calling the directions and referring to the earth as the mother goddess, and that just doesn't resonate with you at all? Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You can dive right in. Be a participant observer. As ridiculous as maybe it seems, adopt those ideas for the moments that we're here together. Notice the earth under your feet and imagine it as a living being supporting your every step, ever present with you. Join me in contemplation from this worldview that I bring with me, even if it isn't your own. When we're done, you can take off the coat, step back, and see how it felt for you. Who knows? Maybe you'll have gained some deeper connection with the earth, even if you don't think of the earth as a goddess. Or, occasionally, the experience of acting as a participant observer may be so powerful for you that you adopt some of the beliefs you were trying on. This is where we Unitarian Universalists have it better than the anthropologists, because no one expects us to keep our distance. If you want to keep that coat you try on Sunday morning, we will embrace you and encourage you as you take this next step in your quest for truth and meaning. The next tool I want to offer you is something I think of as translation. Taking something that I disagree with, finding the truth behind it that I can connect to, and choosing to hear that truth instead of the words that rub me the wrong way. Let me give you an example. "Come, thou fount of every blessing" was my father's favorite hymn, and it became mine as well. It's actually in our Gray UU hymnal, number 126, but we sang it a little differently in the church I grew up in. Here's the second verse, the way I learned it. "Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I've come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God. He to rescue me from danger interposed his precious blood." It's so funny. I love that song so much, but those words just are not meaningful to me. One time, Dad and I looked up the Ebenezer thing in the Bible. I believe it was a sort of commemorative rock that people put up to thank God for a successful battle. Even as a kid in church school, it was tough for me to find that particularly inspiring. And as I got older, I also left behind any idea that the blood of Jesus had something to do with my salvation. So I loved this song, and I loved to sing it with my dad. But all the time I sang it, I wished I could be singing words that felt as meaningful to me as the music that went with them. Imagine my incredible gratitude when I discovered it in here, in our gray hymnal, and blessings to Eugene Nevias, who translated the words of this beautiful hymn into something that I can really sing from my own heart and soul. In fact, throughout this hymnal are beautiful examples of ideas that have been translated into the language of Unitarian Universalism. So here's the second verse of Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing in UU translation. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love grow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Now that's a translation I can get behind, friends. There is a quote that inspired me when I first came to Unitarian Universalism, and it inspires me still. We need not think alike to love alike. It is usually attributed to one of the great men of Unitarian Universalism, Hungarian Ferenc David, also called Francis David, the Unitarian preacher of the court of King Sigismund, who influenced Sigismund to adopt Unitarianism and become the only Unitarian king in history. Actually, those words, we need not think alike to love alike, are probably more like a summary of David's philosophy that came much later from a Methodist minister, but that's not really the point. The point is, from its earliest days, the days of Ferenc David, Unitarianism, and now Unitarian Universalism is a faith that proclaims our deep right to disagree. We need not think alike. I want to take a moment now and give a little shout out to our atheist and agnostic UU siblings who often have to spend a good deal of energy on translation when they come to church. Just as Christianity is the history of a UU faith that is now much broader, theism is also our history, though our present is filled with beloved UU siblings who do not believe in any goddesses or gods. The truth is, when I say God, or prayer, or spirit, or soul, I know that I can't fully understand those concepts, and you aren't required to either. That's part of why I agree with our reading, that it matters less what we believe about these things because we know we can't ever fully understand them. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. And these mysteries can be seen just as clearly in the beautifully descriptive equations of higher mathematics, in the way we feel when we hear rich and powerful music, in the vistas of a wilderness landscape. Another great UU quote from Reverend Forrest Church: God is not God's name. God is our name for that which is greater than all, and yet present in each. And those of us who speak up here before you are stuck translating all that into clunky human language. So when I say God, as I sometimes do, please know I'm speaking in shorthand. But it is my intention to include all those naturalistic and humanistic conceptions of the great mystery in my shorthand. I invite you to translate my words with love and understanding. I invite you to recognize that my own uncertainty about what I mean when I use those words includes your ideas of the primacy of the natural, the non-existence of the supernatural. As I often say to my agnostic beloved, when we look at those images from the Deep Field Hubble or James Webb Space Telescope, as far as I'm concerned, you can call that God and get it just about as right as anybody else. The natural world around us contains enough mystery that we don't need to look to the supernatural for a source of awe and wonder, and that is included in what I mean when I say God. It may be tiring for you folks to translate the God talk you may hear from me, but I assure you, you are welcome here to engage with this community that is committed to nurturing your spiritual growth regardless of how you understand the mysteries of existence. This is the work we do, being Unitarian Universalists in community. It's the work I invite you to engage with me today and every Sunday and every day. Please, disagree with me, but please do not let your disagreement lead you to disengage. Instead, dig deeper, stay curious, stay in conversation and in covenant as we come together again to share our different ideas in love.